This conference will now be recorded.
Looks like a summer meeting, missing a few folks in the audience. Kelly, would you call the roll? We're packed.
It's so hot out there.
Commissioner Hutchins,
Here.
Commissioner Cassidy. Here. Vice Mayor Cos.
Here.
And Mayor Pugh.
Here. All right, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I
Pledge allegiance to the
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, really put it. All right, so we have the agenda before you. Is there any deletions or modifications to the agenda? All right, hearing none is.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. We do have one addition to the agenda that we would like to present to you, which is a resolution for authorization of signatures, changes for the new town manager potentially, and if not, then an ongoing interim town manager for our banking.
Okay,
How much?
This is just for signatures, signature authorizations, yeah, for signature cards. It's a resolution.
Those
all
If
right.
we could add it as,
What do you want to say? Where do you want to put it?
15A?
a regular item, if we can do it.
Well, just can we do this on the consent agenda?
16A.
Sure. We could do it on the consent agenda, if you prefer, you could do it.
Yeah, it's just the approval of the signing of the
Well,
banking.
it's a resolution, so.
You have to vote on resolutions.
Well, we are voting on the consent agenda.
Yeah, on consent is fine.
Okay, so 15,
There we go.
No, it's
14A.
14A.
14A, sorry. All right, anything else? All right, so I make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the agenda with the addition of 14A.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries. Okay. Presentation and proclamations. Chief?
Officer Vaughn, you know. Officer Fowler, and it's here this month. Back in May, we submitted to the Traffic Safety Council of Palm Beach, the nominee, Officer Fowler, for his enforcement activity. He won the award for enforcement for the Traffic Safety Council of Palm Beach. I told you over the months, how well he's been doing with his enforcement, with bicycles, pedestrians, and vehicle. He's had some good arrests and good productivity. Up until we submitted this, which was half a month, he had 346 traffic stops, 303 citations, 12 arrests, and 139 warnings, but he had some really good cases out of that. We're proud of him, and he's doing a great job.
Thank you, Jimmy. Where's the award?
It's in the picture.
Oh, okay. It's in the-
It's on the other picture.
Yeah. First award in 20 years.
Mayor,
All right, yes.
I just want to let you know that Commissioner Ayala is on the phone.
Oh, okay, great. Welcome, Commissioner Ayala. All right, so we're going next on the audit for fiscal year 2024. Mr. Bennett,
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor,
welcome.
members of the commission, thank you once again for allowing me a few minutes to discuss the audit for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2024, 9 months ago. I have with me 3 documents. I think you have copies of all of these. The first one is financial statements themselves. The second one is a report or a letter with the long title of Communication with those charged with governance at the conclusion of the audit. And it's certain required information that auditors are required to transmit to those charged with governance, in this case, the elected officials, when the audit is over. And it has a few documents that, kind of underlying documents that you probably haven't seen. They don't show up in the audit report. They're in our work papers. Management's familiar with them. They have to sign some of them. So, before I go into my little presentation on the numbers, I wonder if anyone has questions on either one of these documents. We can go over those first, and if not, then we'll just go over the numbers.
Okay, anybody have any questions on those documents?
So what I like to do each year is give you a 5-year trend with the underlying numbers and a nice little bar chart, if you will. I don't know if it's on the overhead projector or what that is up there. If you go with me to page 2, it says governmental revenues. The town has 2 funds, they're both governmental funds. The general fund is your general operating fund, and almost all your activity takes place there. You have a capital projects fund where you spend for your major capital outlays for, construction projects, even some equipment that you purchase. There are very few revenues in that fund, and in the current year there were none. So the revenues were all in the general fund, but this is a combination of the 2 funds. So you can see, what I like to do is have you look at the picture while I talk about the numbers, and it maybe makes a little more sense, and you can see this stuff kind of reads from the bottom up. Property taxes are the biggest portion of your revenue. Almost 72% of your revenue are property taxes. That's the bottom of the graph there. And in 2024, your total revenues were 11.1 million, which was an increase of 695,000 round numbers, about 6.7% over the prior year. And that kind of had 3 big items in it. Property taxes increased 750,000, grants decreased 485,000, and investment income increased 364,000. The grants dropped off markedly because in the 2 prior years, you had the ARPA funds that were recognized. That money you got way back in 21, 22. You recognized half of it in each of those 2 years to avoid a single audit. And then it went away and you only had like $4,000, $4,800, which was money from FEMA from a hurricane several years prior. They don't get in any hurry in reimbursing you. In any event, the net effect is a 6.7% increase, like I said, from 10.4 million to 11.1 million. And as you can see in the picture, you got kind of a nice progression, which is kind of what you'd expect because inflation, if nothing else, you would think would increase 3, 4, 5%. So you're a little bit ahead of the inflation curve there, I'd say.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
We did have other grant revenue last year. We had 1.25 million in grant revenue.
It wasn't expended during the year. This is 24. That grant for the property you're talking about, yeah, that's actually disclosed in the financial statements as a subsequent event. It occurred after September 3rd. Yeah, you're right, it's a long time ago, but it's, it was actually after, in November 24, the town entered into an agreement with Florida Communities Trust for a grant up to a maximum of $1,054,427 in reimbursement for land. You're correct. Next chart, if you go forward to page 4, this is the table of expenditures. You can look at the raw numbers if you want, but the pictures kind of tell the story. What you get again is this gradual progression, except for the thing at the top. What's at the top is the capital outlay. And revenue, well, expenditures in 23 were 8.8 million, in 24 they were about 11.1 million, which was an increase of 2,257,000, about 25%. And the reason for that was this capital outlay. You had the undergrounding the water main project was a big portion of that. And that top layer, I put it on top because capital outlays are non-recurring. You have projects now and you do something that may be several years and they tend to be volatile. So the other things are your recurring expenditures, that's the non-recurring. And you can see the recurring kind of follows the same pattern as the revenues. You got this gradual increase going on. But the breakdown on that was for the 2.257 million increase, 1,760,000 of that was in capital outlay, 247,000 was in public safety. That was a 5% increase. That's kind of sort of the inflation there. General government went up 136,000, which was 11%. So nothing extraordinary there other than the town hasn't had a lot of capital projects. If you can see the blue part on top, You know, last 3 years, you had quite a bit more than you did the 2 years before that. And it's my understanding you have a significant amount planned in the future. Which brings us to the next chart. This chart will tell you, no diagram here. So I got one on the following page. There's one there too. Fund balance of the general fund. Fund balance is broken into a multiple of categories, and they are unassigned, assigned, committed. The town doesn't have any committed fund balance, restricted and non-spendable. What you want to see is unassigned. Unassigned means you can spend it for any lawful purpose at the discretion of the governing body. Assigned means that the governing body has already earmarked that for a particular project, but they can change their mind if they see fit. Restricted is money that is earmarked for a specific purpose, but you can't change it. Usually if that restriction is imposed by an outside party. And so there's, you know, or in this case, part of it's from a loan agreement. You got some funds sitting there in the debt service fund. And non-spendable is actually money you've already spent. In this case, it's prepaid expenditures. You've already paid something that's going to be an expense next year. So that money in essence is already long gone. The town
Can I
has,
ask you a question here?
yes, sir.
So, unassigned, purple, does that mean we have 9 million in reserve?
That means you have $9 million that you can spend at your discretion
In the bank.
in the bank or in the investment account. Oh, one of the things I forgot to mention back on the revenues was the interest income increased from about 89,000 to 452,000. The town embarked on a new investment program and it paid great dividends, almost $500,000 in investment income. And in prior years, it had been 65,000, 34,000, 42,000, 88,000, and this year 452,000. So my commendations to the town. Keep that up. But yes, the unassigned is money you can spend for whatever you want it to. And since you have some major capital projects coming up, you unless they're huge, you already have the money on hand to fund them. That unassigned fund balance is equal to 91% of the expenditure, general fund expenditures for the period. That is, you have enough money in the bank on September 30th to pay all the expenses for 91% of the year, but 11 months. If you never got another next one, you could have paid almost a whole year's worth. That's on the very high side.
On the very high side
Yeah.
for most towns, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's one of the highest I've ever seen. But that's good. Way back when I first started doing this 30 years ago, we used to tell people, well, you need at least 2 months worth of money on hand. Because things lag and you don't start getting your revenues until November. The tax money, they send out the tax bills on November 1st, so it's kind of late November before you get the first money. So you gotta make it through October, November, so you gotta have enough money in September just to get you through, those 2 months. You get some other revenues, but let's face it, property taxes is it, because it's 72% of your money here. So, and then 2004 and 5 came along, and we had 3 hurricanes in a month or so there, and then we had another major one with Wilma in 2005. And they decided, that 16% is probably not enough. I think you're gonna need significantly more than that, especially if you're on a barrier island here. What would happen if a category 4 or 5 or even a 3 came roaring in here and messed up a bunch of stuff? How much money would you need to keep going for a while? And instead of a percent, I would actually look at a dollar amount, with $1 million, $2 million. Well, I don't know what it would take, but if you had devastation here, you need some money that you can get immediately. So you have enough for that and enough to fund some major capital projects, so. I would
If my
say,
math is right, we have enough to run for 11 months.
yeah,
That's crazy.
if you had to, if you didn't get any money.
Yeah.
Fortunately, you did. You're 9 months into this year, and I don't know how much of that you've expended this year, but you probably have more fund balance now than you did at September 30th, would be my guess, because you just got all the revenues for the next year.
Yeah.
Long about by April or May, you've got pretty much all the tax revenue you're going to get or substantially all. The last 2 exhibits in this handout are a totally separate set of financial statements. Governmental financial statements are a lot more complicated than those for a business. You actually have within your financial statements two sets of financial statements done on different bases of accounting. You get your fund statements, which are based on current financial resources. That is, you only have current assets and current liabilities. You got like cash and receivables and short-term payables and those things. You don't have long-term debt. You don't have capital assets, those things. Well, they make you put in a separate set of financial statements up front called the statement of net position and the statement of activities, where you use a different basis of accounting, which is virtually identical to that a for-profit business would use. On your statement of net position, you bring in all those long-term liabilities, you bring in all those long-term assets, land, buildings, equipment, all that sort of stuff. And you use full accrual accounting instead of modified accrual accounting. So it's on a different basis of accounting and a different timing. Basis of accounting tells you what's in the financial statements. Governmental funds, current assets, current liabilities. Entity-wide, that's called economic resources, that's everything. We got everything you have financially is in that set. So you have the current assets, the long-term assets, the current liabilities, long-term liabilities, and in the income statement, it looks just like a for-profit business. You have the same, all your revenues. And modified accrual is when you recognize it. Basis of accounting is what you recognize. The accrual or modified accrual is when you recognize it. Modified accrual is, it's got to be measurable and available. Basically, you got to collect revenue within 60 days, a year end, or you don't count it. Whereas in full accrual, it doesn't matter when you collect it. If it's a receivable, you record it as revenue. So it's all inclusive on that set. So this is the second set of financial statements that you don't deal with. You see these once a year when you get the audited financial statement. The others are in your monthly financial statements. So now you see you got net position of $21 million. Well, you had capital assets of almost 18 million that did not show up in those fund financial statements. And you had non-current liabilities of about 6.5 million that didn't show up there. So it's just a different way of looking at it. And if you had a tremendous amount of debt, these could look a lot different. The town doesn't have a lot of debt. You have the one loan, which is, I think it matures in 2027, I think the 2027 fiscal year.
We have one that goes up
Today?
today, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
That, one last payment.
That's, you're talking about the revolving fund loan there?
Yep.
Yeah, the Bank of America, yeah, there's 458,000 left a year, and you make the last payment. And September 30th, 24, it was almost 912,000 left on the Bank of America loan, which is the one that expires in 2027. So, any event, that's the condition and a trend for the last 5 years. So with that, are there any more questions or any questions at all or comments or?
So it looks like the town's position has increased on the plus side for the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah, let's see what it was. Always your unassigned fund balance. Back in 2020, the unassigned fund balance was 3.8 million. Total fund balance was 5.8. And 24 is 9.1 million unassigned and 10.1 million total. So it's almost doubled. And it's almost more than twice as much on the unassigned and almost twice as much in total. So it's been a good 5-year run. But yeah, when you have major capital projects come along, you have to build that fund balance up, or else you have to go borrow the money and then pay interest into the future. If you can do it without having an astronomical, millage rate, it's probably better to fund it up front.
That's what we're trying.
Yeah, we're trying.
I would say you've been successful so far.
So
Any questions for Mr. Bennett?
I had one question which might be outside your expertise. Given we're in such a strong financial position, when we go to get loans, will that influence us in the municipal market or not?
Yeah, generally, the stronger your balance sheet and the better things look, the smaller the interest.
So it's the same as non-municipal, okay.
They underwrite in kind of the same sort of way. Only you have an advantage that I don't, if I go borrow money to buy a house, I don't have the power to tax. I can't confiscate money, so. You guys can.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, may I ask you to make a motion to accept the audit for fiscal year 2024?
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Oh, any public comment? Sorry, Terry, just start looking at you. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries.
This is kind of a special month, right, for town hall? We paid off.
That's it. We paid the town hall off. That's huge. Huge. That's big for us. All right, moving on to the announcements. Kelly?
The meeting schedule for the next month is as follows. The regular town commission meeting will be Monday, August 4th at 6 p.m. The town commission budget workshop number 4 would be also Monday, August 4th at 2 p.m., which we still need to discuss. The code enforcement hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, August 5th at 10 a.m. The planning and zoning commission meeting will be on Tuesday. Actually, we had it moved up. It was July 15th. We moved it up to today. The Board of Adjustment meeting has been canceled for this month. There will be a second reading / public hearing for the comprehensive plan text amendment, evaluation, and appraisal review based amendments at the August 4th Town Commission meeting. And all meetings are held in the Commission chambers at Town Hall. The town is also hosting a blood drive event with One Blood on Friday, July 11th from 9:30 to 3. The bus will be parked behind the town hall. All those who wish to donate blood can sign up through the link posted on the town's website. And any residents who wish to sign up to receive any important town notifications and news due to regularly should sign up to the town website or town hall process.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, public comment. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Nancy, and I'm here actually to talk about the beach between the Ocean Ridge Public Beach and the Intercoastal up on the north end. And I live in Palm Beach, but I live 4 blocks away from the beach on the Intercoastal, so I decided 10 years ago to buy a condo in the lovely community of Ocean Ridge right here at the beach, so I could be right at the beach. So, and I've grown to love Ocean Ridge. I spend half of my time here. So, I go early in the morning while it's dark so I can see the sunrise on the beach, and I collect beautiful shells. I make shell pots of all sizes for my garden club, which I belong to in Tequester, Jupiter, and also in the Orchid Society at Mounts. So everybody loves them, and I like to walk on the beach barefoot. Grounding is supposed to be good for you, and it's the only place I can go barefoot. And many times I've seen the turtles because I go at dark with a flashlight and they nest and lay their eggs. So it's just a very beautiful beach. I would like to give this as an example of the beautiful shells at Ocean Ridge of something that I've made and what they used to look like for you to pass around. And everybody always loved the shells. I even have a beautiful purse I made for myself. Anyway, so when the dredging project started, I was quite concerned. You know, it started March 1st, which is the beginning of turtle season. It ended on April the 30th. You know, with dredging projects, there's always concern about, you know, the ecosystem, the sand fleas, and they don't, you know, no food for the shorebirds or the crabs or different things. But that's minor. So, you know, I didn't give it any other thought. Well, when the dredging project finished, I was just in shock of what the beach was like. I got a letter from Army Corps of Engineers, actually May 13th, after the project ended, and I assumed that the commission, the town, and Ocean Ridge worked with Army Corps of Engineers to do the project. I even came here, and the lovely staff members said, oh no, the commissioners, the town had nothing to do with it. It was strictly Army Corps of Engineers. So I started making my calls. Of course, in Washington, no one answers days and days of calls. They hang up on you or it's voicemails. I called Wellington, I called Palm Beach Gardens offices. Finally, maybe a week later, a lovely lady named Lisa got back with me, and she said, we had absolutely nothing to do with the project. The only thing we did is sign off on the permit. So my question to her was it a general permit you signed off on, or just a dredging project that was going to occur? Or did they know the details of what would occur in the dredging project? Because I thought that was important. So she directed me to Palm Beach County Environmental Management Resources, and I talked to the man totally in charge. He's like the coastal program project manager, Andy Stutt. He was very evasive, and, you know, he didn't like anything I had to say. And I told him, you know, that, you know, I was going to be in Tallahassee, you know, up at the state in August, and that I would take it up with them, because he just said, you know, we followed the guidelines and we didn't do anything wrong. Well, I think he did plenty wrong. Now, when you go on the beach, I can't make shells anymore. This is what the shells look like now. You can pass that around and look at the difference. Okay. Now, it took me about a half an hour to walk from the Ocean Ridge Public Beach to the Intercoastal and back. And this is what's all over the beach. It's not sea glass, which is beautiful, translucent turquoise. It's broken glass, because they made a terrible mistake. Instead of doing the fill and the dredging and putting back the beautiful ocean sand, they went and got the intercoastal organic muck full of broken glass, and they dumped that on the beaches. So 3 times I've observed the turtles. It's called a false crawl. They can't lay their eggs because they can't dig in the muck, and they have to go back out, you know, drop the eggs, lose all the eggs. So we're losing turtle eggs, you know. I, you know, think that's a concern. But people, when I was there, the second time, I thought, well, maybe there won't be as much glass. I cut my foot. Another lady cut her foot. The man had to carry her off the beach. But you can't take the most beautiful beach. Just Ocean Ridge is beautiful. You know, I've had homes in Abaco in the Bahamas, and it's equal to the beautiful shells in the beach of the Bahamas, I think. It's wide and gorgeous. And they've ruined it. They took all the intercoastal, as Andy calls it, the shoals, you know, so another nice term for it, but they took the intercoastal junk muck and dumped it all on our beach in the north end. And I think they ruined it. So, I mean, she's the attorney. I think you have a lawsuit. I think you have a lawsuit with possibly Army Corps of Engineers for signing off on a project, you know, so devastating like that to the beaches. And this Andy man, you know, he could care less. He didn't like anything I had to say about the turtles, the shells, the glass, people getting cut, how beautiful the beach used to be. He didn't care. So, but he said all he did is follow the state laws. Well, maybe the state laws are wrong. They should be changed. So that's what I wanted to say and show you everything, you know.
We really appreciate it. Really do.
Yeah, I was
Can I comment on that?
really sad.
Absolutely.
what's happened.
So, Nancy, thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I actually had a phone call with our former town manager with the county. And it was the Palm Beach County that led this dredging
it
of the
all.
intercoastal and then pumped it out. And then they were running a pipe down at the toe of the dune to Hammock Park for replenishment.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a very short period of time. And they do it, apparently they do it every few years, every 7 or 8 years. And we had no control over that.
I
They
know.
dictated that.
Yeah, I know.
So-
That's why I don't know. I think it's a lawsuit, but I think it should go, the Army Corps of Engineers, first of all, you have to find out, did they just sign a general permit, not know what was going to go on, or did they sign a detailed permit, knowing every step of the way what was going to happen? then they're at fault. And then they're at fault if they didn't investigate it more and they just signed a general permit, But this Andy man,
And what did you say his last name was?
STUDT, Andy Stutt. If you want to keep all this for evidence, you can.
No, that's okay.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is what they used to look like, the beautiful shells. They're not there anymore. They were destroyed.
Well, I guarantee you they'll be back. It all washes and changes. And if you'd have been here when they actually replenished the beach, the sand that comes in is gray out in the ocean. And it's literally gray sand. And it covered from the beach, from the inlet all the way down to the county beach. So it was 10 times worse than what they did over here. They have to do it because where the inlet is actually a sand catch basin. And what happens is you have that sand, actually the sand that we're pulling out actually came from the ocean and it fills in. So over time, it does get that muck layer on top of it. But that sand, they have to pump out into the ocean in order to get it out so it doesn't clog the waterway. So it's kind of a catch-22. And it's designed, the Boynton Inlet's designed that way.
Maybe they could make some more islands like they're doing.
Well, they're trying to with
Palm Beach.
they're doing that all over. They're using that sand up at the Palm Beach Inlet, they're using that sand, bringing it down and using it for those lagoon islands you're making. But anyway, thank you so much and appreciate your concern. Betty?
Go ahead, Betty.
Remember I said the Nalapan was stealing our sand and nothing, so they have dredge in it? They need to start shortening that thing, pumping the sand over the inlet, taking muck out of the inlet and putting it on our beaches. They have increased the problem on the beaches 100-fold. Next, they're gonna go pump the sand from the reef out there, which is what protects us from the hurricane. And people ought to start thinking about nature before they try to change it.
Thank you, Betty. You're up, Terry.
And I get 7 minutes, right?
No.
No.
I got you on that one, man. I kept going, I'm watching it. Terry Brown, Harvard Eye South. You're very well informed. What they're doing at Peanut Island is in front of Sailfish Marina.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't even started on the dredging of the inlet itself there. And that's going to be a big mess. But they got to get the ships in and out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to comment on something that's on the consent agenda. It's not a criticism, but it's the town manager's contract. And congratulations to Michelle Heiser, right? I pronounced it correctly. I asked you what we were going to call you. Now we're going to call you manager, right?
Okay.
And congratulations.
Yet,
You'll get it. You'll get it without question. But I wanted to comment on the contract and her pay and her benefit, the total compensation package, the language in the contract. Unfortunately, Christy is not here. She would hear me congratulate her as well, because it was a very well done. And the only thing I would comment on when you posted it on the website is that if you would have included a single page of Miss
Heiser.
Michelle.
Yeah, background, when people were looking at it, they would see that it was a wonderful choice and that the compensation is fair and she's getting great benefits. She opted for the Florida retirement system, which is a very wise decision. But it would have been beneficial for people just looking at, well, who is this? Anyway, that could be done later, outlining her background. The other thing is that there's just one small area in the contract on page 6, item I, where it says that you can terminate her with cause. And it says in this one sentence, engaging in immoral or criminal acts that become public information. Now, wouldn't you want to know if that was happening, even if it wasn't in the front page of the Palm Beach Post? So that language, I think, could be cleaned up.
and I don't think it'll affect the contents of the contract.
I would to talk to Christie about that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up. I did read every line,
It sounds like it.
yeah,
Elizabeth.
and I didn't even go 3 minutes yet.
Thank you, Terry. Any other public comment? All right, hearing none, back to the commission. Let's move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I think the chief is going to address.
I was wondering, I thought you were just coming to just kind of hang out.
Well, I did, and I'm gonna start coming to all the meetings. I think it's important for us as we continue our relationship, for you to see me, and then if any of your constituents have questions, I can be here for you. So Hugh Bruder, Fire Chief. So this month, the month of June, we actually ran 28 calls for service in Ocean Ridge. 18 of them were emergency medical service transports by our rescue trucks to the hospital. We had 8 water rescue emergencies, and as you heard me say a couple times that I've been up here, how important it is for us to shore up our water rescue assets and the fireboat we talked about. And
When are you going to get to see the fireboat?
Yeah.
well, unfortunately, the fireboat got delayed till October, November, but,
Oh, okay.
but it will be coming shortly. The public safety dock actually would be ready in August. And I did just want to comment on one of the things your constituent said, reference to the inlet. When we were successful with the Inland Waterways Navigation Grant for the public safety dock at Harvey Oyer Park, it was interesting. I made multiple presentations to them, and on one of my last presentations, they actually indicated to me that they're going to be taking on completely redoing the inlet because it's technically not an inlet. So they are going to be spending millions and millions of dollars for appropriations to be redoing that inlet permanently. I don't know when. If I get any intel, I'll definitely share it, when I come before you again. What I do want to highlight, though, of that call information that I gave you is that the average response time to Ocean Ridge was 3 minutes and 3 seconds out of those 28 calls, which is just astounding. As you probably heard me say before as well, the national average is 8 minutes. The average within Palm Beach County is 6 minutes and 52 seconds. Boynton Beach Fire Rescue's average within the municipal area of Boynton Beach is 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So for us to get across the bridge and get here to serve your community in 3 minutes and 3 seconds, I think is astounding. So we're going to continue to work on that because we know how important it is for us to get here as quickly as possible.
Now, does that change during the season? Because, during the summertime, we do have a lot less people, so.
It does. Call volumes will increase a little bit. We're averaging about that number of calls per month. One of the things we just instituted, which is going to help us tremendously, when we did our fire assessment fee last year, we increased it to the residents by $20 per resident. That allowed us to have assets or funds to build Fire Station 6, the marine complex across from Harvey Oyer, rebuild Fire Station 3, and purchase a new station recall system. That station recall system is state-of-the-art and actually allows us to shave as much as 60 seconds,
Wow.
additional 60 seconds off response times. So that $800,000 we feel was money well spent, to get us to these calls as quickly as possible.
Well, that's great.
It is.
Well, just to clear up what you said about the inlet, we don't have anything going out there that they're changing inlet. They're not making it any wider, but they're hardening all those seawalls. They're going to be building all new seawalls and everything else. That's what they're doing on it.
Nothing to do with the height.
Nothing the height,
Yeah,
nothing
as far
on the
as I
width,
know,
nothing
no.
on the length. So we don't want to
Yeah, no, as far as I know, and you can.
have this
find
guy
this
put in the
out.
paper that we're changing the inlet.
No,
Yeah,
not
we-
the height, because
yeah.
the commercials start coming.
Right. No, we don't want to go in that direction.
I hear you, but then, it can easily be found through the Inland Waterway Navigation site or a phone call to them to find out exactly what their plans are, because I know that our development team is very keen.
They're raising the
on-
whole seawall so that all that doesn't flood out on the south side.
Correct.
And on the north side, they're going to raise that whole seawall too.
Yeah, and they have to, because when we had that fatality with that 9-year-old that was lost in the inlet, he actually was forced up under the quay,
Mhm.
and it was very difficult. We actually had to wait for a changing tide for our dive rescue folks, and PD helped us quite a bit to get, unfortunately, it was a body recovery at that point, but that whole structure as you come along on the north wall, is just so dangerous.
Yeah.
So, for sure. Well, that's my presentation.
Well, thank you so
Have any
much.
questions? Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Make a motion,
Go ahead.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of 14A.
Second.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Can I just get consensus regarding the comment on the proposed change to the manager's contract?
Sure.
Yeah, we've had Christie. look at
Michelle,
it.
any
Look at
issues?
No, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I know when I spoke with Christie about that particular area, I felt as though that part was redundant with whatever that next line is, which speaks to the state statutes for misbehavior and misconduct. And I actually had suggested that she take out the one line that was specifically saying, if it shows up in the newspaper. Because to me, that's an older line since cities have been using that line. Since then, the state had come up with the state statutes that define in black and white what the misconduct is. And it actually is a little bit stronger language than the one that you were speaking to, Mr. Brown. And so I felt like it was redundant, but Christie's point of view is my job is to protect the town and the commission. And so I don't want to remove additional language. She felt as though it was stronger to leave it in. So either way, leaving it in to me is redundant.
Well, it's funny, it says in the newspaper.
Right.
I mean, how many people, I read the newspaper, but how many other people actually read the newspaper?
I think just that's, language that's older and has just kind of been used over and over again in contracts.
Mhm.
But the newer language is the line right underneath it, which refers specifically to the state statute.
All right.
Misconduct.
Thank you.
So we agree it can be struck, you agree it can be struck, and the only thing is if Christie says, no, it can't be struck because of this reason that we're not hearing.
Yeah, Chris, you just look at it and then let us know.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to public hearing for fiscal year 26 budget. Discuss and approve a maximum millage rate for fiscal year 2026. Michelle, you want to lead the pack on this one?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm inviting Holly back to the
Holly, how are you today?
lectern to
Well.
join me in the discussion. As you all know, but for the audience's edification, Holly is our financial consultant that does all things numbers to keep us spending money the right way. So I always appreciate her input. And if we can get to the slide for this item, that would be great, so that the general public, and also if you all can see this, it's time to talk millage rates, and that's what I put on here. And why do we do it now and not in August and September? And the reason is it's the timing. There's a timeline that's set out by the state and state statutes. And this is our time to talk about what the maximum tolerance is from this board for a millage rate that you would consider later on in this process. And we must do that today during our meeting because the property appraiser will then start and begin to advertise along with the rest of the cities. So as part of the statutory requirements under section 200.065 Florida statutes, that's the trim portion, the town must establish a maximum operating millage rate in July. This is not the final millage rate, but rather the highest rate the town may consider during public hearings in September. There's a full memo under this item online for anybody that wants to go back and read it. The commission has been made aware and read the memo. And so Holly, what portions do you want to add?
Just maybe a little bit about the taxable value. So we had 34,373,000 in new construction. And the way that the new construction works is it doesn't get into the calculation for the rollback rate. It's basically, and that's a lot of new construction, new property that you're adding. It's 2% of your total value, so that's quite a bit. The rollback rate is 4.9961 if you're interested in that number, and that would be the number that would generate the same tax revenue that we have in the current year, which is fiscal year 2025. So we're talking about fiscal year 2026. So Michelle is recommending that we go to 5.40, which is what our current millage rate is. Last year, when you all set the maximum millage, you set it at 6.0. Again, I didn't read on how you got to that number, but that was the number that you had set for your maximum millage last July. But we're recommending at this point 5.4, which is the current rate that you currently have.
Okay, any questions for Holly?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Very well presented. Thank you. Well, I'll tell you why the six mil thing, just so you know, is because that's the max. And then what happens is the past thinking was, oh, well, if anything happened, we would be at the max millage rate and then we can always bring it down later. But with our present financial situation, It wouldn't be, it doesn't make any sense.
No, because this is what gets advertised with the trim notices.
Exactly
They go out
right.
in August, so.
You may
Plus it
recall,
freaks everybody out when you say, it's sick
Yes,
bill.
yes.
And my phone rings and
it's in
everything.
the paper.
And it did.
I'm sure that you
Yeah.
probably had a lot of phone calls.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
There may be a year in the future, after we have all these capital projects completed, that we want to do that again, but this is not that year that I would make that recommendation.
Okay. Public comment. Terry, you have nothing to say?
You forced me. Oh. The earlier presentation by the auditor and Commissioner Cause said that you could operate 9 months, 11.
11 months, yeah.
But you're looking at the government paying the salaries, keeping the lights on, that sort of thing. But if you get any kind of heavy duty rain storm that like occurred just recently in Texas, that's just rain and a flood. Your roads are going to be deteriorated. There's going to be homes that are going to be washed away. So you can use some of the government funds to help people. You got all those people in the low-lying part of the south end of town. They're going to need help. And someone said, well, you can't help individual residents. You only operate the government. Well, that's not the case. That wouldn't be the way I would look at it. If someone needs a new road in front of their house, you'd have to go in there and do it. So it would cost you a lot more than just salaries and light bills.
No, but that's on the commission's, the way we would, way we would look at spending that money and helping the folks out. It wouldn't be, by that time, like she had said, we would already have the tax money coming in. No, not FEMA. Forget FEMA. Because that's going to be later on, if anything.
Yeah.
So,
No, but
I understand what you're saying, but we would have that option as a commission to spend those funds as we see fit.
Yeah.
In order to help people or help the town.
Yeah, you could do instant grants and hope you get it back later. But
it's nice we have that kind of funds to be able to do that.
Exactly. In that respect, you're doing a good job.
Thank you. Thanks. Any other public comment? All right, back to the commission. Is there a motion?
Sure. I move that the commission approve a maximum operating millage rate of 5.4 mils for fiscal year 26 to be included in the trim notice as required by Florida statutes.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion?
There was also just a word where Commissioner Eller just seconded as well, simultaneously.
Thank you, Ainer.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Moving on our regular agenda items, approval of unity of title for 5311 Osprey Court. Michelle?
I'll refer back to Elizabeth.
Elizabeth?
Sure, why not?
I'll get to you.
All right, so this is a request from the owner of 5311 Osprey Drive. They own 2 lots that are adjacent to each other, and they would like to build 1 single-family residence on the 2 combined lots. They're requesting to approve a unity of title that is part of your packet.
All right.
What is the square footage of the 2 lots? Each and then together?
Probably 10 times 2.
I think we have it.
So the house, for people that know Beachway and Osprey Drive, which is the south, the yellow house right at the corner there, that's owned by the Charlies. And then the next house south, which used to be the Helen Clark house, is owned by the Charlies. Then there's the empty lot that they also bought. So they want to take down house number 2 because in their endeavor to renovate it, they were going to hit the 50% rule and have to elevate. So they said, what the heck, we might as well just build 1 home across the 2 lots. These are not aggressive development people. They're very homey. They're out of Pennsylvania. They're not looking to build some huge monstrosity. They just want some land around their new single-family home.
So they're building it for themselves?
Yes. They don't rent. They don't.
Public comment?
Well,
To answer your question, the total combined area is less than half an acre.
Less than a half an acre?
Yes.
well, you could calculate it by percentage of the
Square
square foot, yeah. So it's gonna be a big house, but, there's no way out of that. And it'll meet all the setbacks, side setback, fronts, back, whatever. But the design of the house, I mean, you say that they're wonderful people. We've had people in our neighborhood say, oh, we love it here, we're gonna stay here. And as soon as they get a CO, the sign is up. But, So I think that this is not the time in the process, but plan review should be doing a better job of just looking at what the result will be in terms of structure. Is it all gonna be facade? Is it all gonna be glass? Is it all gonna be just CBS block? The point I'm trying to make is we need to look more carefully at what we're building in terms of how it's changing the look of the town.
Thank you, Terry.
I know you don't believe that.
Christine, do you want to say something?
Christine Schulte at 7 Adams Road. I was going to correct what she has corrected. In Osprey Court, we don't have 4 numbers. I lived there 25 years or so, and it's single numbers. So I was figuring out what's going on with this situation, but it's Drive, and people confuse it all the time. It's so anyway, and I'm sure this family will build something nice, well, then will be approved. That's all, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Uh-huh.
All right, any other public comment? Back to the commission. For a motion?
I move to approve the unit of title for 5311 Osprey Drive.
I'd like to second that.
Oh, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, consideration of a new appointment as for an alternate position for the Board of Adjustment. Kelly?
So the previous person that you guys had appointed for the alternate for the board of adjustment has decided to no longer do that. So now it's back in your hands to decide whether you guys want to go out and ask for another alternate or wait.
Just leave it open. If somebody applies, they apply.
Exactly.
I mean, we have one alternate already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does that agree? Everybody in consensus?
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. All righty. Michelle, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Commissioners, let me start by saying thank you for your vote of confidence. And I'm excited and honored, really honored, that we could get here this fast. And I look forward to the massive projects that you have planned for this next fiscal year. And we'll be talking about that in August. So please, everybody that's here, come back for the August meeting as well. We'll be talking about the water main replacements. And I believe with the work that has been done, not just with your planning, but also with your financial planning, you're going to move this 8-year plan down to within a 5-year completion date. I think the auditor mentioned, and it's a great example of fiscal stewardship, good fiscal stewardship, taking what used to be $60,000 a year in interest and turning it into $450,000 a year. That will pay for right now the emergent issue for design that you have coming up with the hydrants, which we wouldn't have had available. So well done. Yeah. So thank you for letting me be part of an organization that has such great foresight, really. And I want to thank directly Vice Mayor Cos, who led a very challenging discussion on my contract while we were one-on-one.
It was a pleasant discussion.
It was. Each one of you, of course, had great discussions with me. And if you know Vice Mayor Cos, you know how challenging that conversation can be. So I really want to thank him for doing it with humor and fun. And it was just enjoyable, and I'm glad to be here. I did want to ask, though, about August, if I could. Would you like to consolidate the meetings again and have your budget information brought in with the 6 p.m. meeting, or would you like to have it separated out and have the 2 p.m. afternoon session as a workshop? Which, again, remember, we can't vote at the workshop on anything, so should anything come up, we cannot.
How much is there to do with the budget? You seem to be ahead of it.
Yeah, there's not a lot to do at
I'm
all.
looking at Holly, we can pretend like there's a lot more, honestly, but we've got it nailed down. And I think the biggest thing I want to discuss in August is just the projects, so for 2 things. One, so that the the general public knows how much work is gonna get done in this next fiscal year. And two, so that we can appropriately plan and talk about potentially going out to the state revolving fund if we even need to for the next projects.
I think we should leave it on, move it to the 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that the rest of the public can actually be
Yeah,
involved
the
in
only
the
thing that
discussion.
is gonna change is the state revenue, the governor just signed the budget, the state budget, and we get a lot of state shared revenue, and they haven't done the projections yet on how much will be coming in. And the sales tax on the commercial properties will have an effect on our budget, again, not a big effect, but that is sales tax money that is no longer gonna be around, so, so we will have a
Every
little bit
penny.
of revenue adjustments that we'll have to make before the final budget in September, so.
All right, so you want to just move everything to 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, we'll do that. And I think that's all I have. Hold on. Go ahead. Near? No.
Nope.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Try it again.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Better.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, and I agree with consolidating into the one meeting because I think we've got things really nailed down, and congratulations.
Oh, you're breaking
To have
up.
a more, oh, sorry. I'd just like to say that I'd like us to have a broader conversation around our surplus position and long-term, how we want to balance that with the timing of the water main projects and all that. I think Michelle kind of referred to that, but I think that's the appropriate time for us to, kind of sit back and think strategically about that.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
So
We'll incorporate the,
who's bringing up P and Z? Are you bringing that up or are you bringing that? You are, okay.
That's next.
I didn't know, it's not in the book.
All right, Joe, finish?
I'm all done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Elizabeth?
Hi, all right, so Christy asked me to mention that the Planning and Zoning Commission has a request. And what they're looking for is commission approval by consensus to review some non-conforming lots. There were some ordinances that were passed a few years ago.
2023.
Thank you. By the commission that addressed non-conforming lots, and it looks like a few may have been inadvertently left out. So the Planning and Zoning Commission would like to review these and the history of them and see if it's possible to address them in the same fashion. So this would require some additional legal research and preparation. So we just wanted to see if you all were amenable to that moving forward.
And you just need a consensus for that, right?
Correct.
Just
Everybody on
so
board?
the public
Yeah, I'm on
understands,
board.
the one from 2023 was Anna, of Old Ocean, Anna Street, that section here. This is up by Edith Street. There's 3 lots up by Edith Street that have
There
the
we
same
go.
hardship.
All right, I think you have consensus to move ahead.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all you have?
That is all I have.
All right. All right, chief.
Yes, sir. My main report is in your package, along with the fire report. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I will point out that for that month, they stopped 696 cars. They had 3 felony arrests and 9 misdemeanor arrests for that month, so they've been very active and proactive, and everything's good on our front.
Did you say 696?
696.
They have to start buying brake pads.
Wow.
So I have a question. Coastal Star ran a little story about the Briny Breeze contract. Are we okay?
They're going to come to your August meeting because they didn't agree with the language for the adjustable CPI language. They wanted to, I will mention it now, they wanted to remain at the 3%.
And you're gonna bring that up at the next meeting, or?
Yeah, I asked them if they would come, and they said they would come in August to present that to you. They're happy with the service, they want the service, they just didn't like that little language.
You know the language Carolyn's talking about out of Miami?
The same language we have in our fire contract.
Correct.
So it
They
goes
don't
up
want that.
and the higher of, in fire contract, it's 4% or CPI based on this metric. Using that same metric, it's the higher of CPI or 3%. And
And they just want
CPI is now below 3%.
Right,
So
but what they wanted, they
They wanted
wanted
to
to
keep
protect
it-
themselves against when it went up to 8%. They
went
don't
up
want
to
that, they
8%.
just want 3%
It
period.
was 8% for a blip.
I mean, I don't see the problem
I
with
don't
that.
either.
I mean, we can make that decision right now, can we
That's-
not?
yeah.
Yes.
So does
Was it
anybody have a problem
consensus
with
of
just
vote?
making sure the contract stays at 3% per year? I mean, it's Briny Breezes.
Yeah, I'd say yes. We
All right, so let's do a
limit the
motion and
length of
a,
it,
what's that?
3% for the next 3 years, just in case something happens.
I think that's a good idea. But are you, chief? You're the representative for them.
I'm sure they'll be happy. You could, it's your pleasure.
You'll look good.
All right, yeah. All right,
So For
well,
the next 3 years, is that what the?
yeah, 3 years, 3% for 3 years.
And we don't need any public comment or?
But we do, we just gotta make a motion, somebody's gonna make a motion and then second, and then we'll have public comment.
And Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, as far as the public comment and advertising, that was actually advertised at the 3%, and so you're not going higher, and so you're fine with making a
Great.
decision now.
Great, so I'm gonna make motion. Motion?
Oh, yeah. Make a motion that we set a contract with Briny Breezes with a 3% increase up to a 3% increase per year for the next 3 years.
I think it is a 3% increase in the next 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Just saying
3%
if
per year. For
Suddenly
3
we go to zero inflation.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, public comment.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear everything there. Are we saying it's gonna be 3%? Or it's
Yes.
gonna be up to 3%?
3%.
3%.
Yeah, okay, so they're protected against the upside and we're protected against the downside.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
I support that.
Did somebody make a second?
I know you're gonna ask me if I had any comments. We know a lot of people in Briny Breezes, and some people own more than one trailer, and they love Ocean Ridge Police. So 3% is very.
Who wouldn't, Terry?
Huh?
Who wouldn't love Ocean Ridge Police Department?
And the chief's gonna come out looking like a real big hero.
You gotta tell them how
He
you
should
fight
look like
for
a
it.
big hero.
You gotta
I mean,
fight
come
for
on,
it.
look at what he's done for the
I
town.
said, it'd be more meaningful for them to come, but they did ask me to respectfully ask you, so they will.
No, I think it's fine.
I think we should make the fight a little harder.
And
All right.
Briny absolutely loves Officer Debbie.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, any town commissioner comments? All right, none. Well, I want to thank you all for coming to our summer meeting. It was great as usual, and see you next month.
Right on time.
Right on time. Yeah. See you later, Ainer.
No, so she'll get it.